start recording yet? Awesome. So I want to thank everybody on the screen here today for joining us for the mental health fair. We think it's really important to kind of bring about awareness, stamp out the stigma. So really appreciate folks. So why don't we do this? Why don't we keep it simple and go around real quick and introduce themselves? I will start, which I should have done already. My name is Aaron Millman. I'm the student assistance counselor here at South Brunswick High School. My job is to provide counseling support for students. So any of you out there, feel free to email me anytime, and I would be happy to sit with you on Zoom or meet with you in person, and we can chat. And our goal is to kind of support you, not tell you guys what to do, what to think, how to act, but to provide emotional support to you guys. So let's go to the next folks.
Sure, I'll just jump in. So I'm Ms. Henderson. I'm also one of the student assistance counselors at the high school. This is my second year. Last year I was at the middles as well as the high school. So just like Aaron said, we provide counseling support, mental health, addiction, substance abuse, pretty much everything in terms of social and emotional needs. So I do a lot of collaboration on initiatives with drug prevention and mental health awareness. And this mental health website is going to have this video on it. So we're very excited. So thank you again for our panelists for joining us.
Hi, I'm Donna Maureen. A lot of people call me Nurse Maureen. I am the 10th and 11th grade nurse this year. I'm also one of the co-advisors to the Public Health Club, as well as the Incorruptible Us group that I run with Mr. Millman and Mrs. Henderson, and I also collaborate with the Youth to Youth group. So welcome, and thank you, our panelists, and I'm looking forward to this mental health fair.
My name is Nikki Francis. I work at Wellspring Center for Prevention. I am the coordinator of program and professional development, and we service all throughout Middlesex and Monmouth County, doing program for youth, communities, and for parents. And we also are part of your Incorruptible Us initiative at your school, and very proud to be partnered with you on a number of things. So thank you for having us.
My name is Lola Bakadarova. I'm a recent graduate of South Brunswick High School, and right now I'm a freshman at Jefferson University in Philadelphia studying health sciences and occupational therapy. I'm one of the founding members of Youth to Youth, along with my friend Erin, who can be here today. But we are really excited to see that the group is continuing on and that we're still able to be involved and have an impact on the school community.
I'll go next. So I am Miyoshi. I'm a senior at South Brunswick High School. I'm also the co-founder of Incorruptible Us SBHS, and I'm on the boards of Youth to Youth and Public Health.
Hi, my name is Nora, and I'm a current senior at South Brunswick High School. I'm a board member of the Youth to Youth group and the Public Health group, and I'm also the co-founder of Incorruptible Us alongside Yashi. And next year, I'm planning on going to Rutgers University, where I'm planning to enter a 6-year pharmacy program.
All right, hi, my name is Rob. I'm a senior, and I'm an ad board member for Youth to Youth. I've been a part of it for 4 years, and I'm just really excited for today.
Cool. My name is Ty. I work for Youth to Youth International. I've been involved with the program since I was in high school back in 1985. And I love hearing that these students are a part of it and building it in their communities and keeping it going now for a number of years. So we work at drug prevention, youth development, leadership development work. So any way we can support young people to be making positive decisions or support them in the positive decisions they're already making. So that's what I do.
I guess I'm last. I'm Matt Bellis. I'm a clinical psychologist and a stand-up comedian, and I have worked with Youth from before I had gray hair. I don't know. I mean, I'm going back a long time, and so I've spoken at South Brunswick High School. I think the work that Youth does is fantastic, and I'm just really pleased to be a part of this.
I have 2 more that I'm going to have speak. Allie and Jordan, could you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Allie. I'm a 10th grader, and I've been a part of Youth to Youth for 2 years. I'm more involved now, and I'm really excited to learn new things about mental health and everything.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm in 9th grade and I'm part of Youth to Youth and Incorruptible. And yeah, excited to be here. So.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to have everybody here because like in my heart is Youth to Youth, LMTI, these organizations that support students and the kind of philosophy where we empower students. I know LMTI talks a lot about looking at students as the leaders. We don't have to wait as leaders. We don't have to wait for them to be the leaders of tomorrow, but they're the leaders of today. And if our panelists could speak to that a little bit, I would appreciate it. Just to kind of give your feedback and that kind of on how what that means to you.
Well, I'll start. I can honestly say that every time I present to a group of amazing young people, I always say that I'm going to learn more from you than you're ever going to learn from me. And I believe that if we give youth the opportunity to have real discussions, to get the information, be educated, then they can make those decisions that are going to change the world. And so even if it's a presentation on vaping, marijuana, any kind of drug prevention that we do, or if it's about trauma and grief and loss, it's really more a discussion, not talking at youth, but really listening to what they have to say and working together as a team.
I try and I think the idea of young people be any significant change historically, maybe not necessarily at the high school age, but some at the high school age, and it's getting younger, I think is brought on by young people leading the way. I think any massive, if we look back in our time, any great social changes that occur might have adults at the forefront. You see them a lot, hear about them a lot, but I believe it's when young people start building up a groundswell that we really see that. I also think that it's an unfair situation. That's why I've always been drawn to working with young people, is I want to advocate for them because I feel like you're disproportionately impacted by the decisions that we as adults often make. And yet you have no say in, you typically can't vote. You don't get to, a lot of times given any involvement or input on the processes or protocols we establish. And so I just feel it's important that we love to meet, and I sit in a room of 4 or 5 or 6 adults, and we're going to develop some great program, and no one's talked to young people about, is this something they want? Is this the way to do it? How to make it? But I also think it's important that we help, educate. I think there's a balance in there that we are taking some of the stuff that we've learned from our life experience or our professional experience or our education and help, how can that make the way easier for the young people that are trying to do well for themselves and their friends?
I think a big part of being one of those like younger leaders, and obviously like I'm on the other side, I'm already graduated high school and everything, but like at one point, like having that impact is like the ability to take initiative, but also using that initiative to work with my peers and my classmates was a big deal because it not only like established that sense of teamwork, but it established that sense of community, which makes you feel so welcome. And we're talking on mental health as well. It really was like a great mental health boost to know that like, sure, Erin and I were able to take this initiative to like start this new community and organization in our high school, but part of the community that we built is still continuing it and letting it still exist. And even amidst a pandemic and everything being on Zoom, like still being able to do so much. It is amazing to see that like we're able to unite so seamlessly.
And something else that I wanted to add on to Lola is when Lola was one of the individuals that started Youth to Youth, or actually no, she was the founder of Youth to Youth alongside Erin. And the beautiful thing is we have, even though Lola has graduated, even though myself, Robert, and Yashi are on the verge of graduating as well, we're going off to college where hopefully we'll be able to continue our advocacy journey. We're still leaving our mark on the high school, like Allison and Jordan. You guys, we're passing on the mantle of leadership down to you guys, and hopefully countless generations beyond that. I know it sounds a bit cheesy when I say it, but you're able to, when you teach someone when they're young about these decisions and you teach them in the right way. I know Mr. Bellis, you mentioned in your novel how you go through hairy experiences when you're an adult, when you're growing up, because Mr. Matt Billis, he published a novel called A Better High. I was reading it last night. It's absolutely amazing. And you want us young kids to understand that you adults are scared for us, and that we might make the wrong decisions. We might go into the same pitfalls that you guys were in when you were growing up. And you want to explain to us that, hey, the world is going to be a bad place, and that if you teach us things, then we'll avoid the same mistakes. We'll change that behavior. But sometimes what many people fail to recognize is when you do that, you kind of end up you suppress the voice of the younger individual. So the beautiful thing about all of this is you're giving us a voice. You're allowing us to choose. And that's something that I think has been one of the best parts of my journey in Youth to Youth.
Well, thank you for referencing my book, Nora. Was it $20 I promised you to plug that? But not really sure. I do appreciate it. Yeah, so there are lots of stories in the book and the messages about natural highs and making healthy choices. But I started the book by basically laying it out there, saying, like, as adults, you know, we used to approach prevention just from a fear-based model of like, oh no, please don't do this, I'm worried for you. And we see all these horrible things that could happen. But when we shift our perspective and start to encourage young people to say, what can I do? What can I say yes to? What can I embrace? How can I speak out? How can I feel empowered? You know, not only do the students get more engaged, but you know, the work that I do feels more effective. Like I get so much further. The same is true with mental health. You know, I think if we approach mental health with this idea of always fear-based, like there was a time you couldn't even talk about suicide. Oh no, you bring it up and people are going to want to do it. And it turns out that wasn't true. I mean, the research says you need to talk about these things in a responsible way, but don't talk down to young people. I mean, talk at their level. And that's kind of been a goal of my entire career. It's just sort of lay it out there, get a conversation going. And you see students like yourself, Nora, the work that you put in. I mean, that just makes people like myself so proud, the idea that you've taken this idea and run with it to help other people. And that's really the point of writing a book like I did. There was a student one time who read my book and wanted to put on what he called Better High Day. And he coordinated with all these student assistant counselors in Westchester, New York, and got them all together to put it as an outdoor day of just fun activities, natural highs. And it was started by one student, like a spark that he had reading the book, and then he ran with it. I had very little to do with the whole thing. And it was like, I was in tears, honestly, when I got there. I mean, my allergies are pretty bad in late fall, but I think it was pretty much the emotional aspect of it really was. It was so moving to see what a student had done. And I'm going to stop talking now. Cool. I could go on for an hour easy.
No, the volume's pretty bad.
Just to kind of jump in, I mean, one thing we got to point out here is Lola and Aaron, a couple of years back now, it's going back some years, came to my office and had a conversation. And they walked in because it really revolved around some friends who took their lives locally and were really wanted to kind of bring about awareness around mental health. And we know under the umbrella of mental health, there's so much, and it really is kind of concerning as counselors, and some of the folks on this, panel can speak to that, is that where we have a community, right? And I think this is across America. New Jersey is a great sample state because we can really kind of get a sense of what's going on just because of the population and everything. And we have scenarios where you have parents so afraid to go down that road, and the importance of getting out in front of mental health issues. If your son or your daughter is struggling, or if you're a student and you have a friend who's struggling with depression or anxiety, reaching out to us and recognizing that it's okay and it's important to speak up and talk to these things. So I really think there's a need for that. And I really love to get some of the other folks' perspective on that with regards to how do we do it? The question's always there. How do we get folks to kind of buy into the idea that, if your son or daughter needs supports or a friend of yours needs counseling, how to react properly to that and communicate to them that it's okay, that you need support.
Yeah, I think one of the, Nurse Maureen here, one of the things that parents can do is the first step is to recognize the symptoms. Recognize what the symptoms of depression could be, what anxiety could be. Don't just think, oh, they're just going through a phase or something like that. Look at, are they having the headaches? Are they having the stomach aches, frequently? Are they sleeping well? Are they not eating anymore? Are they not, corresponding with their friends? So be familiar of how to identify, because early identification is key for anything, for mental health or any physical ailment.
I kind of wanted to add on because I know like for school, like I am really anxious during school, and whenever a teacher calls on me, I start panicking and then I can't really speak that well. And I remember this one time in freshman year where my freshman year was kind of a horrible year, but that's besides the fact. So like one time during freshman year, I was having a horrible anxiety attack and I had a really depressive episode. And during middle school, I would go to my counselor for that. And during my whole freshman year, I really had no one to talk to and no place to go. So I kind of have a question for one of the panelists. Like, if a kid in school is going through one of those episodes, what do you suggest for them to do and how to handle it if they have no one to go to?
Well, you always have someone to go to, because we're always here for you. So what we try to do here at the high school is make sure that all the students know all the resources available to them. And one of the places that some people don't look for a resource is the nurse. We see it all here. So always remember, Allie, everybody on the panel, pass it on to your friends. The nurse is always there for you. And we are one of the first ones to recognize some of the mental health symptoms. But Carrie, you want to jump in about?
Yeah, I think the key is getting the word out, because we do from time to time hear from students that we didn't know that you guys had that service. We meet in every freshman health class and we do a presentation on suicide awareness, and we do let students know that we're here, we're a resource. We also have the Bridge Center, which is the Rutgers school-based counseling program here in school. So we're always trying to get that word out, but I think a lot of times it becomes noise. And so I appreciate you sharing your personal experience, because I think that that's how we get better and how we continue to work together and collaborate as a community, because I can speak for the other counselors in the building and folks out there. They want students to get help. They want students to get the support they need. It's just kind of finding that right match. And sometimes if it doesn't feel right, you could always come directly to me. You don't have to go through the counselors. You don't have to go through nursing. You can email myself directly or Mrs. Henderson, so we can get you linked up with either one of us or facilitate supports in the community. But it's so important to know that our services are confidential. We don't report what you tell us unless it's a danger to self or others, and that would be just expanding, and we're going to call the local newspaper to share your business. Our focus is really to kind of get those students linked up to appropriate services, and sometimes that's in the community, but also we can provide supports here as well. So just so you're kind of aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Allie, for sharing that with us. That's very brave of you, and that's why we love that you guys do what you do, you students. But I do want to say also that some teachers in the building are wonderful, trusted adults. So if you connect with a teacher or a paraprofessional or an assistant principal, we all work together at the end of the day in the school to get you the proper help and resources that you need. So please don't be afraid to reach out to any trusted adult. But I do want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go. You got it.
I just wanted to kind of direct things, because I just looked at the clock and we're so short on time, but I wanted to, and we can kind of double back and follow up with more questions. But for our panels, do you guys feel when it comes to mental health, like we work from this perspective and people kind of, we make sure students get their right mental health needs met, and they're providing services with myself or one of the other counselors, one of the guidance counselors. We're just trying to connect people where they feel comfortable and getting those supports. But when we start to think about leadership or getting involved or getting engaged, how do you feel about that as it relates to mental health, as it relates to just personal growth and the importance of that? Like, why do you feel, how would you be able to kind of describe the importance of that as it relates to people and their overall well-being?
I mentioned a little bit about it before, but my leadership style is definitely one that's from a more empathetic, very much team-oriented foundation. And from there, I'm able to build communities, and I'm able to take initiative and allow the people in my groups to support me as I take those initiatives. And to know that you have support from the group you're working with as a leader is, from like a personal perspective, is like such a great mental health booster. It just makes me feel so confident in myself. But at the same time, we all still struggle. And as a leader, it is so crucial, especially when you're working with a team, when you're working with a group, to practice what you preach. So I preach always like, tell us how you feel, let us know if you need any help, like let us know if you need anything. But a lot of the times I would struggle to do the same thing myself, and honestly like take on a too big of a load for myself, and then it would get overwhelming, and it's like a whole snowball effect. But being a leader and growing and developing as a leader, especially in group settings and with mental health being one of my core values, it has definitely not only challenged members of my group as I challenge them, but has challenged me to better myself as a leader by doing exactly what I ask of whatever group I am leading. So asking for help if I need it, saying no when I need to. And it's just been a great kind of like team effort and like bettering ourselves and bettering the group.
Erin, I'm going to add two things. So one, Allison, I'm going to use what you did as a brave young person talking about what's really going on for you, right? If you can't find the resources in your school, another amazing resource out there is the second floor helpline, right? You can call, you can text, there's someone there 24/7, right? So that's a fantastic tool for every young person to know. I tell my teachers when I do teacher trainings to make that extra credit if a young person has it in their phone, right? And the National Suicide Hotline. Those are the two things. But when you ask about leadership, Erin, for me, we know it's really easy for young people to become leaders if we give them an opportunity, right? But it's also from top down. So a lot of the programs that I work on and focus on is helping teachers understand what's really going on for young people, understanding what trauma is, understanding what mental health is, and how if a young person is showing any behavior that's not something that they really would like in their classroom, that maybe it's a gift, that they trust them enough to give it to them, and that they can be the person to connect them to the other services. So letting them know who you are, letting them know who Kara is. So, you know, we assume every teacher in the school knows, but we want to just not remind the young people. We want to remind administration and staff that these are the people and we're all connected in this. And it's really about connection. So once Allison shared her story, we're all now invested and connected. And so when teachers and administrators can connect with our young people, I think that improves the leadership in a school.
Just adding on to that, when it comes to giving young people a chance to lead, like with Youth to Youth, it was majority student run. And that completely changed me. I started my freshman year and I was not in a great spot, but I mean, I think I'm doing a little better. But it gave me the chance to connect to people like Yashi, Nora, Mr. Millman, Lola, like everybody. Like Youth to Youth became part of my family. And it gave me the strength to not only handle like my own fight with certain things, but it helped me help others. And that made the most difference, because I went from someone who was terrified to just stand up and talk to, you know, a class of 10 people, 20 people. So I was able to mentor because of this. I was able to just change. I was able to be happy. It made me who I am.
And Rob, you not only were in the Youth to Youth Club, you attended the Youth to Youth Conference a few times, correct?
Rob attended Youth to Youth and Lindsay Meyer Teen Institute and some other things like Peer Institute and different events. So basically what I'm trying to get at here is that kind of opportunity to get trained as a leader and become a leader of your own life and develop who you are personally, which is really, really important. And I think that, you know, Rob is a great example of a student who really kind of put the work in and the time and the energy and some amazing things that go on. And I know a lot of times students have misperceptions, and I think social media plays into this. And I think the group, because whenever I work with freshmen, they're like nodding their head like seals in the room, because I speak to things like social media and how the impact that has and the kind of misperception that's you know, out there about the perfect life and what that perfect life looks like and the pressures young people feel. So if you guys can speak to social media and the pressures on that as well, I would appreciate it. Any feedback?
Yeah, for me, my journey as a leader, like I have to say, like Youth to Youth and LMTI and public health, like all of them have really changed me. I've always been like on the louder side. I've always been like more outgoing, an extrovert. And when I was younger, anyone that knew me during middle school would know that I had trouble, sort of angling my enthusiasm to like things that were productive. I was always kind of like the, stand up on a table, tell everyone what to do kind of leader. I don't mean to say like I was bossy, but I had trouble communicating my feelings and my thoughts in a way that was respectful for others. And with time, I have learned that sometimes it's okay to not have to say anything. Sometimes it's better to be a listener rather than a speaker. Sometimes it's more important. Sometimes there are areas where someone might be better versed in than you might be. And, working with Yashi, working with Rob, working with Lola, working with Allison, working with Jordan, like all of these guys have played a huge part in my journey in the way that they have shown me their own strengths and weaknesses, and they've helped me in that realize my own strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, like you said, Mr. Millman, social media does have to, I never really used social media much, but when I did start using it, I realized that people try to present the best version of themselves. They try to make things seem like they're perfect, when sometimes if you were to sit down and have a conversation with someone, you'll realize that not everything about them is perfect. And they might realize the same thing about you. And that's completely fine, because we're human. We're not meant to be perfect. And that's something that leadership helps you build on. There's no such thing as a perfect leader, because there's always going to be something that you can fix in yourself. And part of that is communication, is being able to tell other people that, hey, I think you need to work on this, obviously in a respectful way. And I always expect people to tell me the same thing. If there's any issues, my ears are always open. That's probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned in Youth to Youth, is to have an open mind, have an open heart, and just make sure that everything I'm being told, I'm taking it to heart, and just making sure that I can be the best version of myself.
I quickly wanted to add something. I know Nora just hyped all of us up, so I kind of want to match that energy. And I like talking about like LMTI and stuff like that. So when I went there, this is not an understatement by any means. It literally transformed my advocacy. Like I became an advocate when I came back from LMTI, and I started to like notice these issues in my community and stuff like that. So I saw Matt Bellis speak there. And of course I read your book too. I forced my sister to read it too. She loved it. I loved it. And you talk a lot about humor as a way to cope. And I just had a quick question for you. So a lot of times people see advocates as unapproaching. They think that advocates are all about seriousness, all about facts, all the time. And I wanted to ask you, what's a tip that you would give to an advocate to like seem more approachable and seem like more willing to talk?
Well, some of the best advice I ever got at the beginning of my career was, tell the one story no one's ever heard, which is yours. And when you open up with something personal, something appropriate, something funny, it makes you seem more approachable. And so you may have all these facts and figures in your head to be able to go to, but you want to humanize, your character and make people feel like, you're someone to speak with. And I think in the stories you tell, when you're presenting, especially, they should highlight your failings, like your pain, your loss, and your failure. If you're up there just telling people how great you are, it doesn't make you seem approachable. And so that was sort of my goal from the beginning, which is to lay it out, be your honest self, either whether it's on stage or in person. And I think, I hope at least the people who've known me, like Ty, have known me my whole career, would say, he's the same guy on stage as he's off stage. I mean, that's who he is. And I think as a rising leader yourself, that's a great compliment if someone ever gives you that, like, didn't talk down to us, same person, whether presenting to 50 or just one-on-one.
I can probably, also I wrote about this in my book, A Better Book About Better Highs. I don't know if you've gotten to see it. It's right here. It's available if you want it. But I'm a big fan of humor, but remember, humor is helpful. All of this is based on connection. Like we've used that word a bunch in just this conversation. Go back and listen. We've heard connect, 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 connect. Connect has two meanings. One is like actually taking them up and getting them involved with the resource and saying this. But then there's another layer of connection that Robert mentioned, I think, at Youth to Youth and some of the in LMTI, some things that we mentioned is that when we look at connection, it's got to be authentic. So it's not an advocate approaching you. It's not an advocate or someone on social media as an advocate that's approaching you. It's you already have a connection, and through that connection, that's how you can influence, right? So if you, so I try to look at trust is the key thing. Like trust is a key thing if you want to influence or be a quote unquote advocate. It's by building trust, but you can only do that through authentic connection. And we tend to look at, beauty, and by beauty, I mean cool events, people doing something bigger for someone else, acts of kindness. Like these are beautiful things. Strength is another. So when you talk about or demonstrate overcoming your own challenges and realizing that life doesn't always just come the way you want it, like all the good stuff, the stories become great stories because it's somebody usually overcoming something that was a challenge, right? And so we have to let people know, hey, challenges are a part of all this. It's not the social media world where everything goes my way all the time. I try and use social media to celebrate when I feel fortunate that the things have gone my way. My kid's graduating, whatever, just happened when I can show pictures of my little 3-year-old in front of a rainbow, like celebrating that so that we know, hey, there's some positive stuff out there. And I think that's an important part of it. But we can't just think, hey, here's a resource, because also with every time there's a resource and we're saying we want to introduce you to this resource, there's also a stigma that we got to work through, right? There's that stigma that all of us should be about working through. And so what I would challenge us to do is say, the students, your peers, your friends, and adults that are out there watching this, the young people in your life that can be struggling with some of those things. We then have the choice either for us to, we always say, take the first step. No. Shorten the amount of steps they have to take. Go to them, reach out to them. And it's not, hey, you seem depressed. Can I talk to you? It's like, how about those Lakers, which or the Browns? How about the Browns? You want depression? I've been a Browns fan forever. But how about those Browns, right? Or any little thing to start building a connection so that you don't have to advertise, come talk to me. They're just going to do that because you've worked on building that trust. And that goes for peers. that goes for teens. You have made the effort to learn more than most about these topics, and you can help walk them to that connection. So because let's say Robert's been to Youth and he loves the program, and Yashi, you've done the TI thing, you love the program. Your job isn't just to be an advocate to talk to them about it. It's to, when you notice they need help, is to walk with them to that help, hold their hand and take them to that help. Not, hey, there's a cool program, a cool resource that can be helpful. It's like, oh, you know what? I need some of this. You want to roll with me while I go, and that's through those connections, but they got to be authentic. They can't just be, I just show up when I think you might need help. It makes it easier anyway. Let me just say it that way. But again, my book's on sale. It's $1 less than whatever Matt's is.
Ty walked me to some help in Oklahoma when I didn't bring an umbrella. And he's like, this is Oklahoma in the summer. Like, have the kind of rain that will soak you to your underwear.
He was whining about a thunderstorm. I'm like, we're in Oklahoma in this, like, it was raining when you got off the plane today. Like, what are you surprised by this? Sometimes I'm not the best guy to come to for help. I'm going to be honest.
I would like to tie in these things. When it comes to, I'm going back to social media for a second. It is one of the biggest tools of our generation in the sense that it can be used to bring people together, but it can rip people apart and sometimes just rip you apart from inside. Life is a bunch of waves, up and down sound waves, highs and lows. Social media only shows the highest parts, the good. Nobody shows the struggles. Nobody shows all their bads. Nobody wants to see that because, that won't get likes, that won't get followers. But it's taking out the human aspect of not everything is perfect. And when it comes to like making connections, it is good in the sense that you can build connections. You can keep connections. Like this is going to be like personal, but me and my close friend, he lost his father. And that is the only way that like I've been able to talk to him regularly because we don't really call because, well, our generation just doesn't do that. But definitely not sending letters either. Those are just no. But I'm able to keep in touch with him. And sometimes he sees these things where he's like, everybody's life is so great. And why is it just me? And I got to remind him that it's not just him. Everybody has the demons that they fight themselves, whether it's being depressed, whether it's being anxious, whether it's losing someone or losing everyone. Everybody has their own demons that they're fighting, but nobody sees. And that's why social media is dangerous, because it makes you feel alone.
Yeah, and I feel it's effective with that. Go ahead, Nikki.
I was just going to add, when I do, when I'm talking to youth about social media in particular, the saying I always say is it's a highlight reel. It's just a highlight reel of your life. And everybody's putting the highlight reels up. So, if they understand sports and that there's a 3-hour game and they show you 10-second clips, that's exactly what social media is. I always say if I show a picture of a dozen roses, nobody knows that I've been fighting with my husband for 4 days, right? They just know that I got roses. So it's just a highlight reel. And then the other thing I really want to get across when we're talking about mental health and understanding young people is that we all have baggage, right? I use that analogy often. We have a ton of baggage, all of us. And some of us have one bag that we're carrying. It's a carry-on bag and we're good and we can control it. Some of us have a lot of baggage, but it's neatly put together. And then some of us have so much baggage that we need people and places to help us. And that's where the resources come in. And that's where knowing where a trusted adult is to talk to them. And my community just had a really horrible tragedy last week. And I was at the wake and someone said to me, "You're like the community mom." That was the best compliment I could have gotten, because I was there and the counselor of the school said, "We're good because you're here," right? Nikki Francis is here. We're all good. And I said, that was the hugest compliment I got, because I was a trusted adult to many young people. And so I think instilling also that leadership into adults to know that they should be a trusted adult to young people, and it's okay to be a trusted adult to young people, and giving them the power for that too is also so an important tool. And with baggage, always, baggage changes. You're not going to have the same baggage forever. And so, you may only have one bag right now, but in 10 seconds, you may have a lot of bags. So, be kind to those around you who might be struggling, and understand that it can turn quickly, and be that advocate for them also.
Yeah, kind of putting together what Nikki and Robert had both talked about. Like Robert brought up the fact that it is a great way to communicate, and especially right now when everything is virtual, in-person interactions are so limited. And experiencing entering college and that sort of a setting, social media was the only way I was able to meet people. Going into school is the only way I was able to make friends, the only way I was able to keep in contact with the friends I already had when I ended up staying home my second semester. But when we started talking to new people, Jefferson did an Instagram account for us to post about ourselves and try to meet new people that way, and post our social medias so that people could follow us and we could get to know them. And posting about myself and saying oh, I'm looking for a roommate, this and that, and posting the best pictures of myself I could find, posting what I would assume to be the most interesting hobbies to other people, and highlighting myself in just the best way possible, just so people would want to be friends with me. It kind of bred a little bit of imposter syndrome, because sure, those were all parts of myself, but those weren't the fullest and truest parts of myself that I was putting out there. And my first interactions with people, not even interactions, people's first impression of me before even interacting with me was just how great I could make myself seem without them really knowing, especially if I was talking about a roommate, how bad my sleep schedule is, how often or how little I'll be just at my desk studying. It's so many clips of your life are missing when you're putting yourself out on social media, that it's really not the fullest and truest form of yourself. And so just like Nikki had mentioned, sure, you have a dozen roses there, but you could have so much stuff going on in the background. The fact that people can only see those roses and don't really get to know you, but right now we're limited to such a confined and such a, superficial form of contact with people. It does take a huge toll on your mental health, because in-person interactions are a completely different ball game. And it's just something that we all have to keep in mind, especially young people, since our whole lives are on social media, kind of as time progresses and as people enter new stages of life, I was just able to.
Yeah, I totally agree with Lola. Over quarantine, I got TikTok, which honestly, it was a mistake at some points, but it's okay. So I still have it. And I saw one of my classmates from last year on TikTok, and this person was like talking about how they remain, I think, sober or something like that for like a long amount of time. And that person was struggling a lot with mental health issues. And in class, they seemed perfectly fine. They were always laughing, always making jokes, always talking with me, always talking to the teacher, talking about movies, random stuff. So then I texted this person and I was like, I had no idea you were struggling with this. I just want to say I'm proud of you and your journey so far. And like, that's like when you're on the other side of social media, when you like come across a person you know in real life and they're just completely different on social media, for the better or for the worse, it just shows you how much like their social media is so like terrible, which is like there's more words to say about it. But also to go back to Ty, what you were talking about, like holding someone's hand and bringing them to a resource. I think a lot of teens, especially now, and everyone I talk to, they're stuck in a limbo between talking to strangers and talking to the people they know. So on one side, they have family, friends, and people that they want to talk to, but they can't be vulnerable to them. And on this other side, they have counselors and faculty members and staff members, but they're not close with them. So they're stuck in this limbo of like nowhere to go. And I think that's where they develop unhealthy coping mechanisms. So I just wanted to ask a panelist, like, what would you say in that situation? Because I know, like, for me too, I don't practice what I preach, but I'm trying to, like, I know all of these amazing people and I can talk to them, but a lot of people feel like they can't talk to anyone. So.
Well, that's what I was saying with that, is that if they're talking to you, then you're someone they trust, and trust is the key part. So this is like that 6 degrees of separation. Like there's people that ask, I'm not a clinical person, like I don't know, but I have people that trust me because of the work that I do and the position I'm in and the number of people I've impacted in the agency, the programs impacted over the years, and I'm affiliated with that. So I would say, hey, I got this dude, Matt's a trained professional. And then I call Matt up. I'm like, look, here's some of the things, any chance you could have. And then if you want me to be in the conversation, I'll be there. If you don't want me in the conversation, I'll be there. But I do what I can to say, hey, the stuff you want to tell me, because there are things that just because you're trusted doesn't mean you know it. Like this, I need to know my boundaries. I need to know my limits. So I can't do for you what the nurse can, and what Nikki can do, and what Matt can do, what these trained professionals can do. I can't get you to trust me, and I can get you to some good people that can help you. But that's what we should be doing as advocates. Like that's what an advocate does, is to get them, be that bridge to get them there, to help move them there. And so think about the people that you trust and think, man, if this person could just talk to them, then help get them there. And then do all the work it takes to bring them together to make it easier, and be willing to sit next to them if it's appropriate. Again, referring to if it's appropriate that you're sitting in the conversation, be willing to sit with them and have the talk too. The other trick is we keep talking about social media, but we do this in our day-to-day lives. Like the idea that when Matt and I are at an advantage in when we go speak, we've learned that we are at our most effective when we're the idiots in every one of our stories. And anybody that's seen me speak knows I do a great job of saying I'm an idiot, right? And gosh, the amount of pressure that takes off of me, the amount of stuff that moves, we do it in our day-to-day lives, not just on social media, right? So we have to just be conscious of it all the time. And one of the ways I think it helps to be conscious is Yashi keeps asking about other people. How do we help others? That is how you maintain and build your own mental health. That's how you keep that healthy, is by being focused as well on others, not coping with your own stuff. You do have to, you know why? Because you can be more effective if you're modeling what it is you're talking about. Like if you're not going to do that, then you're making your job harder to advocate for others. So one, you have to be able to model what you're talking about. And then two, feel free being the idiot and say, if I can learn it, you can learn it. And then that's how you move on. But you can only do that if you can be other focused. Social media doesn't encourage being other focused. Trying to always present our best side isn't an other focused behavior, right? It's when I can forget about who I am and be genuinely interested in helping others. That my baldness, my size, that's all that stuff's irrelevant. Me tripping and falling. And then I've found I benefit by being able to laugh at that, like being able to laugh at myself. So that's how I kind of package some of those things together. So I hope.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And I think it really by the way, I did fall this winter and it was hysterical. I think my head bounced like I hit a patch of ice. It was the best. I have it on my Zoom, my Ring camera at home. I'd play it over and over and over again.
Dude, let me tell you this. I did that in front of my ex-wife one time. Like I was walking out, I fell down. She had this look on her face. I'm like, can we at least not act like you didn't enjoy that a little bit? You had to like that a little bit. And she's like, well, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, then it was great. I'm like, that's the perfect answer for that.
I think it's really important that you talked about that. And I think, I just think that interconnectedness, that theme that we're talking about, that looking to others, helping others. I want to kind of talk about something real quick that was so awesome about participation in the summer conference at Youth to Youth. So Lola was there, Rob was there, and this is about giving back to others. I mean, we kind of throw out at the group, they go through these incredible workshops, they get to hear these incredible speakers like Matt Bellis, and people come and speak to the students, and it's filled with games and fun. And so it's this big, crazy 4-day, I can't even, you have to come to experience it. But one of the things we throw out there to the kids is, okay, what are you going to do in your community? You had this wonderful experience. What are you going to do with it? So folks like Lola and Rob come up with, we need to connect with the younger kids. And they basically create the Youth to Youth mentoring program. So it came from them, and I was so excited and so impressed. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You bring together amazing young people like we have in our community, and then you put them in a situation where they're surrounded by amazing, caring friends, peers that just embrace them and love them. And you guys could probably speak to it, Lola and Rob. You're surrounded by that. And LMTI is the same thing. It's the same model. It's this idea of acceptance and love and caring about young people. And let's see where they go. And they created this outstanding program, this mentoring program, where we go down and talk to middle school kids, and to see, the middle school kids impacted, that's a whole nother conversation. But to see these kids like Lola and the other people, Nora, Yashi, impacted by being a mentor, maybe you guys just as a group could give some insight or some feedback on that and that experience.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, but when we put it together, like when we thought of the idea, I remember how overwhelmed I felt, because I know middle school, not really an easy time for anyone. And I know if any of us, if myself especially, had that guidance and had those mentors to look up to going through it, like my outcome from middle school probably would have been so different. My motivation levels probably would have been so different. My confidence levels would have been so different, because also I'm the oldest child. Like I'm always the mentor for someone else. And I love it. And I love being there for other kids, but knowing that I was still able to do that and like have a broader outreach, and it wasn't just like my younger siblings or like anything like that, knowing that like I'm still able to provide for these kids and like be a role model for them was really, it really solidified like wanting to pursue Youth to Youth in South Brunswick and wanting to have a form of outreach. And I'm like friends with some of these kids now. Like it's great knowing that like I build connections with them and bonded with them, and it's awesome.
It's been one of the best things that I've ever done with my life, is just being able to do that. It helped me connect like more with the mentors, like my fellow mentors. Like Youth to Youth really has become my family, but just being able to be the person that I needed when I was in middle school, like I could have definitely turned out different if I had someone like me when I was in middle school. But as long as I'm able to be that for just someone, then it's the best thing I could ever do.
Yeah, I certainly agree with everything that Robert and Lola have said. In terms of, I believe I came out of Youth to Youth a better person than when I came in. I came out a more confident person. I came out a better listener. I came out a better leader overall. And I came out as a person capable of leading. I came out as a person that I wanted to be all those years ago. And there have been ups and downs throughout the entire process. There are moments that I look back and I say, why did you act like that? But then when you look back at yourself and you regret things, that's a sign that you've grown and that you've matured. And it was LMTI. It was my experiences with like the Youth to Youth summer conference last year, because I attended it virtually. It was my experience with Incorruptible Us, with Wellsprings, with all of you guys here. It was all of those experiences that ultimately allowed me to become the person that I am today. And hopefully I'm going to keep growing. Hopefully, even though I'm going off to college, it's not the end of the journey. It's just a whole new beginning.
I just want to quickly add that this sounds like an advertisement, but it's not. We seriously loved what we do, and we seriously like continue to love it. And I want to say that like going to these places and having these connections makes you more aware of what your community is going through. Like as a freshman, if someone were to tell me that by senior year I'd be involved in 3 clubs and advocating for like tobacco prevention and all this stuff, I would have called that person crazy, because I had no idea I could do anything. I think a lot of teenagers feel like that. They feel like if they don't have a connection with an adult, then they can't really do anything. But like me and Nora developed a connection, and then we talked to Miss Maureen and we came up with the idea, and then we brought it to adults. So I think if everyone just pitches in, there's so much more we can do. And just I can tell you, when I came back from like LMTI, my like face was hurting from how much I was smiling, and my sister went, "Are you the same person that just went on a bus with like random people in the middle of the woods?" Like, and I said, yes, I'm the same person. But I think like the experiences we've got from this like contribute to our personality. I am not the same person that I was in freshman year or sophomore year. So definitely everything contributed to who I am today.
Erin, maybe you could put LMTI or Kara in the chat, LMTI and Youth to Youth info.
Sure, and I just want to say that like what we're talking about here today is a lot what happens in a counseling session. It's really intended to grow, like intending to help that student grow. Again, not dictating what you're going to do, the choices you make, but facilitating these opportunities for an individual to start out here and end up where they want to go and where they want to be. And the supports that Ms. Henderson, Ms. Maureen provide, programs like the Bridge program, our guidance counselors, we try to do that. And are we perfect? Absolutely not. So just being on this call and hearing feedback from you guys and hearing Allie's story and just to get this is so awesome to be able to kind of help us do better and figure out ways to constantly work to improve, to get better at what we do and delivering that service. I really do appreciate that. I do really appreciate all the feedback. Now, we're going to kind of wrap up in a few minutes. Is there anything else? I want to give, folks the opportunity to kind of give any feedback. Is there any last things that you want to say?
I just have another question for all the panelists too. I know we referenced social media with like the double-edged sword, right? The negatives and the positives. In terms of this crazy year that we've had, COVID, the pandemic, any tips for the kids that are still virtual at home tuning in about, how they can take care of themselves and get more involved, whether that is in their school community or whether, outside of school, anything the panelists, Nikki and Ty and Matt, that you can give to them, I think would be great.
I know I'm also a mother, so I have a senior who's graduating, like some of these amazing young people on the call right now. I have a freshman, right, and a 5th grader. So all transition years, right, which are really tough years. All of them are going through transition years. But I will say that finding something that they can believe in and be a part of. So, for my son, it's Boy Scouts. And so there's a lot of opportunities for community service there. But he's into hiking and he's into camping. And so that was a natural progression for him to give back to the community that way. My youngest is very into rescuing of dogs. So she created at 10 years old, a whole fundraiser to collect pet needs and work with a pet adoption, and was able to give back that way. And, my senior, Ronald McDonald House was close to her heart. And she did this whole campaign about socks and selling red and white socks, and then being able to donate and go to Ronald McDonald House and cook for them and give them a check, right? So I think it's finding what works for that young person and having the ability to connect them to opportunities around. And that's through talking through counselors or trusted adults or teachers about what opportunities are out there. I think just young people need to say, hey, I really like this. how can I make this something bigger than me? And I think being able to be that bridge for them is a really good tool for people to think about.
I'm a big fan of hope, the idea that things can be better, not toxic positivity, like you got this. I can't remember who said that example. It might have been Nora earlier that was saying, or somebody was saying, they said, I believe in you. And that's all cool things to say, but not everything's going to be okay. It's all going to work out. I don't really do that stuff, but the idea that things can actually be better. I think Nikki hit on some examples already where it was, all of them are other focused. So find a way to be other focused. So even if you're dealing with some stuff right now, how might I be able to be supportive? Connection is the next part. Who can I intentionally reach out to connect with, even if I think they need it, if I'm doing it for the fact that they need it. And here's another one that I found to be really cool during COVID for myself and for I have triplets that are 17, they're graduating, right? So for each of them, and I have a 3-year-old, she's not really struggling right now with this stuff, but the triplets have been through some stuff. But what I noticed is skill development. We teach that development is the prevention. So going back to all you guys pretty much cementing our cult status by saying, I'm a different person after going here. We went into the woods with a bunch of other kids and then came out, and now so now that you've cemented that, I do want to say you had that in you. What LMTI do and what Youth does is to try and give you an opportunity, just give you the space to become what you want to become. And through skill building to help you work on some of those things that might give you opportunities to go serve others and develop. So that's the development. So skill building would be one. I would say you could start today. You don't need to get a resource for it. What's something you want to learn how to do and go do it. Mine was a speed bag. I went down, I've watched these guys boxers I couldn't do it. I just stood in front of it, worked on it. My one kid couldn't play guitar, now he can. Another kid couldn't play the piano, now he can. My daughter couldn't make foam out of instant coffee, now she can. So these are all things that if you just set to work, because that is literally hope in action. I can be better. I can do this thing differently. And so that's a little thing that I noticed has been helpful. And it also takes your mind off of it. It also puts the phone out of your hand. It allows you to do some of these other things. So that would be a quick tip that I think might be helpful. And Matt and Nikki and Nurse Maureen, your training, if all that's wrong, please correct that before we go on.
I'd love to hear someone say, yeah, it's all wrong. Just forget everything. No, spot on, Ty. I agree 100%. You really are talking about natural highs in part, like the idea that you want to do something, you look at something and say, ooh, that seems cool. I want to do that. And you try and you fail and you try again. And I mean, that process is really, in my opinion, the essence of Youth and LMTI is all about that process and being okay with yourself not being the greatest ever or failing and reaching out to others to help you. I mean, that's what I got from being a student at LMTI. That's what I try to put forth whenever I speak, is the importance of social support in that way. And we've all got the things that excite us. Some people it's music. For me, it's gardening. I'm Italian, right? I got to tell you that. I'm obligated, I think, by law to mention I'm 100% Italian. And I have a garden in my backyard. And there's such pleasure that I get from it, from being out there and from learning how to do it, because I knew nothing when it started. And we all have to, I think, have a few of those natural highs in our daily life, things that make us feel different, whether it's going for a run, listening to music, meditating. Like, we need a bunch of them. It's great to have big ones, like, oh, I went to Hawaii and I went surfing, or in Ty's case, he didn't go surfing in Hawaii, he watched his kids. But like, we got, those are great. But like everyday ones, reliable ones that you can turn to, to just chill out after a rough, school day where you're just not feeling good. Like, we all need them. And I think that's where, if you want to be a true leader, an advocate, it starts first with understanding how to manage those emotions yourself. And so then you can then help others.
All right, great, thank you. I think that should do it. Thank you all for participating. I did put my email and Kara Henderson's email in there. Any students that want support, please reach out to us. And if not, we'll come find you and not recruit you to our cult, but we'll actually pull you into our organization and provide support. If you need support, we can kind of, do all kinds of things to help you out. I just wanted to say, as a result of today's event, we're going to actually, Matt Bellis has a new book coming out, and we're going to acquire about 40 of those books, and we're going to actually give them out for free. And the only thing for free getting that book is you have to like find 10 friends to order some more of those books. No, I'm only kidding. That's a joke. Right?
By the way, the title of the book is Life is Disappointing and Other Inspiring Thoughts.
I love it. That is brilliant because it is incredibly disappointing, but there's also, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for
Thank goodness for that. Thank you, Aaron.
Absolutely. So definitely please, reach out, everybody. Thank you all for participating, and that should do it.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The students can hop off, and then the panelists, if you just want to stay for a quick sec, I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you all for